So the road to me becoming a therapist is very, very interesting. When I was going to school, my bachelor's degree is actually in criminal justice. I was going to become a probation officer, but when I realized just how broken the system was, like there was no way. There was no way. I was becoming a probation officer to help people. You don't become a police officer to help folks. You become a police officer so you can catch all the bullies, that people that bullied you when you were in high school. And
Mhm.
so I realized that I was not going to be helping people, but I didn't realize the mental health system was just jail with a few extra steps. Like that's all that it is. It's prison with a few extra steps. So what was happening though is I was getting my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I was working on I worked in the computing center at my college, and so I was helping this lady fix her computer, and she asked me, look, have you thought about the marriage and family therapy program? I was like, what are you talking about? I'm getting my master's in criminal justice so I can go to school and be a lawyer. And she was like, I think you should check out the marriage and family therapy program. I have no idea what the hell a marriage and family, can I use cuss words? If it's not, just let me know. Okay. I had no idea what the hell a marriage and family therapist was, what they did. And I was like, if I want to be a therapist, I don't want the whole damn family in there. I just want one
Mm.
person. I'm not trying to talk to everybody. But man, I applied. I was a day late turning in my application, and I had to sit with the dean of the program. And she said, "Look, we're gonna do what we can, but you were a day late." And like I tease her every now and then. Every year, I get really emotional and send her a very emotional email once a year, like clockwork. And
Mm.
she's very sweet about it. I'm sure she says it's the nicest thing, and I'm sure it is because I know if I had a student that emailed me every year, I would be happy about it too, right? So I'm just gonna
Mm.
assume that it's happiness, and she's like, "Oh shit, here we go again, this motherfucker." Like I'm just gonna assume that it's not like that.
Mm.
But she really not made me feel, she made a consequence. She set a boundary. She said, this is what the boundary of what this is. And there's a reason that they have those boundaries. There's a reason that they are there.
Mm.
There are people that you do not want becoming therapists. I know because most of them are life coaches. And so what I'm saying is like she set a very firm boundary. But thankfully, someone somewhere took pity on me and let me in the program. And I fucking fell in love with systems theory. Like
Mm.
I could talk about it day. All day I could talk about systems. It was like I thought this way my entire life. And now I
Mm.
finally have a language to my experience. And it changed
Mm.
my life. My GPA for my bachelor's degree was a 2.7. I was on academic probation. It got to like a 1.7. In my master's, I had a 3.7. And the reason it wasn't a
Wow.
4.0 was because I was spiteful in one class with this one teacher that I didn't like. And I did enough to get a D on the test. So I get a D, and I ended up getting a B in her class. Bless her heart.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's kind of the journey. It wasn't planned. I wasn't trying to jump
Mm.
into this. I had no idea. It just kind of happened that way, and as most things do,
Yeah.
it turned out really well. It's not anything that I have researched because I hear the white, I'm sorry, clinicians in the background right now. I
Mm.
hear them saying that you can't just claim that. So I use this a marketing term to describe the shift in my practice. So most therapy
Okay.
programs, your psychology program probably is so heavily focused on intrapsychic, what's going on inside of a person, what's in
Mm.
their brain, what's broken. And I'm like, have
Yeah.
you taken a look outside at the world we live in? What are you talking about? People are
Mhm.
doing the best they can with what they know. And so the entire field of psychiatry and the way that and counseling in general, especially, more individually focused counseling, like licensed professional counselors and things that
Mm.
nature, people who aren't trained in systems, they are looking for pathology. They are looking for
Mm.
those sorts of problems. And what I'm looking for is what you are a reflection of the environment that you came from. So let's take a look at your situation. For example, I've had people come in who were pre major depressive disorder. I've had people who
Mhm.
were having those symptoms, but they were in such denial that the situation, especially me being someone, I know I've had a string of abusive relationships. I'm not saying the people were abusive, but the
Mhm.
relationship that I was in with them was abusive. And when you realize you've made that mistake again, you will
Mm.
believe anything else other than
Mhm.
shit. I did it again. Here
Yeah.
I am. I'm dating the same fucking person. do I keep
Yeah.
finding them? Right. And so what I say is what is going on in your life to where that person is attractive to you? Instead of
Mhm.
saying, what inner attachment issue do you have? What pathology are you about? Like, no.
Mhm.
Everyone is doing the best they can with what they know. So my therapy is more focused on what is the situation you're in where your symptom makes sense. Thinking about my previous marriage, depression makes sense in that marriage.
Mhm.
Anxiety made sense in that marriage. Hell, a little bit of mania made sense in that marriage. Because
Mhm.
outside of that, I've been feeling great and I'm hope she's doing great too, you know? So
Mhm.
people just, man, it's just so hard to get people to make that shift. Everyone has been
Yeah.
so conditioned to think in terms of pathology and mental illness instead of what's going on in the environment. Does that make sense? So I don't know
Mhm.
if you saw one of my TikToks. There was someone on there who said, "It seems like you don't like white people very much, and I would be
I
afraid to
think I
come to
did.
your services." And I said, "If you feel that way, that means my
Mhm.
advertising is working. Over
Mhm.
50% of my caseload is white people, right? Like I'm trying
Mhm.
to do more to help people of color, but like, so it's just dumb. So my
Mhm.
content and the way that I talk, like the parents that work with me know, once you are in my office, once you become my client." I know
Mhm.
what it is like to just want to know what to do differently. I'm seeing an
Mhm.
accountant tomorrow. I know my shit's fucked up. I know that the IRS will have me.
Mhm.
I know that I don't have my books together. I know I make enough money to pay all my bills, afford this fancy ass fucking place. Like I make, but I don't know. And so
Mhm.
I don't want an accountant who is going to like rake me over the coals, bro. I don't want someone who's going to make me feel
Mhm.
bad. So a lot of the
Yeah.
content that people see, whenever I'm acting like that or speaking that way towards parents, it's more
Mhm.
about me validating the experiences of the teenagers in those
Yeah.
families. It's more about me validating the adults that were children in those families. Because again, I had to turn off my DMs because I was just crying at all the
Mhm.
kids. Can you help me? My mom does this. How do I get? I had to turn it off. Right. So
Mhm.
I have zero to little sympathy for those sorts of parents. I really do. Now, once they make that shift, once they
Mhm.
make that, I will treat you with open up. People, even with answering questions about racism, people tell me I
Mhm.
answer them mean. I charge money to do that in my practice, and I'm not mean to those people. We have a grand old
Mhm.
time. Everything is fine,
Yeah.
you know. So when I'm working with parents, it usually I get that out of the way in my initial consultation. I let them
Mhm.
know because I don't want them to leave my consultation and then go find my TikTok and feel like I'm talking about them. I let them know how I feel. When I have
Mhm.
parents call and ask me, "Can you see my son? Did your son specifically ask for a therapist, or are you trying to find one for him?" Well, he didn't specifically ask. Well, I don't want to see him. I know what it's like to go through therapy and not need to be in there. I would love to work with you. And eventually we might be able to bring your son into it. But as this video that I'm about to make will come out, if you show me a problem child, I will show you a problem marriage problem, family problem, school, whatever. But again, we're just so used to blaming kids in 2021. It's all right to blame parents. Like I'm
Mhm.
going to make that okay.
Yeah.
You have a whole industry, the troubled teen industry. Let's talk about troubled parents, man. So that's
Mhm.
kind of how I handle that. People usually know who I am before they come to me.
Yeah.
Well,
I get.
because the legal system in America is full of shit. I mean, if you word it the right way, you can get away with it. So
Mhm.
look, BetterHelp and Talkspace, it's kind of like I think of it as like mech therapist, right? Like, would you like a side of fries with your therapist? Would you like to supersize them? You know, you can have a therapist that's, you know, the barbecue chicken there. I mean, like it's just it is a abusive platform
Mhm.
because it preys on therapists who have too big a heart, who don't realize that you can't run your damn practice off of $30 for an hour session. You can't
Mhm.
make it. You cannot do that. And their hearts are too big, or they're too afraid to advertise. They're too afraid. They don't, they, because BetterHelp, what it does for the therapist is God, it's so, I used to work there. It's so abusive. What it does
Okay.
for the therapist is you have a constant, steady influx of clients, right? But you are
Mhm.
getting paid pennies. Like it preys on people,
Oh.
like it preys on these therapists who don't know any better. right? Like
Mm.
that's why we have the minimum requirements to become a therapist. I mean no disrespect, but I've gotten here this far from telling the truth, and I'm gonna keep telling it. The
Mm.
minimum requirement therapists are working at BetterHelp. Like you have to aspire and want for more. Well, then why did you
Mm.
work there, Derek?
Mm.
I was in a bad situation. I was in a situational therapist. I was in a bad situation. And BetterHelp was better than nothing, which is the name of a video that I just made about them. But it's better than nothing, right?
Mm.
Does it provide access to clients, to therapists that otherwise wouldn't have it? Absolutely.
Okay.
Except now it doesn't matter anymore because you can only see clients in the same state that you're licensed because people were coming for them. But does it get, I mean, it does. It does. There are great therapists on BetterHelp. There are excellent
Okay.
therapists on BetterHelp that are being taken advantage of. And there are
Mm.
terrible therapists on BetterHelp that I'm glad they're on that platform. So the
Mm.
fact that it works and that it doesn't work is what makes it abusive, right? And the therapists are getting paid crap. If the clients knew how much money their therapists were making from BetterHelp, the clients
Mm.
wouldn't go there, right? Because you end up paying. I love it when clients say that therapy is too expensive. Stop lying to yourself. Like you spend all extra money on stuff like this and things that
Mm.
don't matter. Like I work with my clients on it, but a client will pay $265 for a monthly subscription to BetterHelp when you could
Mm.
pay 130 per session to a therapist. Like I promise you, there are therapists out there that have sliding fee scales, right? So
Mm.
so it just seems like it's good, but it's not. And one day, like it's gonna be exposed. I talked about them. Someone called me from the Atlantic, and there's an article online where I talked about BetterHelp. It was back-to-back sessions. There are no boundaries. Clients feel like they should have access to you 24/7. I had
Mm.
clients sending me text messages, and it's like, I'm not going to be there. I'm not on the clock all the time. So
Mm.
clients are getting taken advantage of. I hate the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Illness. And you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to use the label. So clients that have issues with emotional regulation, clients that
Mm.
come from these abusive family systems that I'm talking about, they just need validation. They just need someone to be there for them and be there and actually
Mm.
care. And on BetterHelp, the way they market it, when you see their advertising, and shame on every single therapist that has participated in BetterHelp's marketing. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. Wow. How much money did they pay you to participate in gaslighting your clients? Absolutely ridiculous. The way that they market, the way that their commercials work, you should be ashamed of yourself. Do no harm. Anyway, so but those clients, the way they get marketed to,
Mm.
man, it seems like I'm gonna be your best friend in your back pocket, and it's just not
Mm.
like that. So it's terrible for the clients, it's terrible for the therapists, and it's great for whoever the idiot is that decided to come up with BetterHelp, who wanted to disrupt an industry. Remember when I told you how I have a tendency to go from one abusive situation to the next?
Mm.
So I left BetterHelp and went to a fucking group. And it was just better help, but prettier, and not as many folks. No, so I did. I was able to go to a group practice, and I was actually doing that at the same time with BetterHelp. So I moved from
Mm.
Louisiana to Seattle, and so in this group practice, and I'm not going to say their names as much as I want to. I'm not going to say their names because I just don't know the legality of it. I had to
Okay.
sign a
Yeah.
non-disclosure agreement when I worked there, and there was
Mm.
some things in there. And they're a huge company, and with the shady shit they did to me when I was working there, they could absolutely take over my whole practice, and they could kill not they could kill my practice by tying me up with legal fees. Like I would die because of that. It's a multi-million-dollar company, and I just tell people not to go to them when they ask me in private. But so the group practice, the way that that worked is they did all of my marketing and advertising for me, and I got to just see clients. But what people don't understand is you are a therapist and a business owner. I'm a business
Mm.
owner that happens to be in the business of doing therapy. There is a difference. There's a
Mm.
difference. And so they took, again, now that I'm a business owner and I know how this, it seems so ridiculous. And that's why I try
Mm.
to give my clients grace, because when you realize how abusive the system is that you're in, or how you are ashamed, you really, and I'm ashamed to tell you what I'm about to tell you, but they charge me $550 a month plus 30% of everything that I made, so that I didn't have to do marketing and advertising. If I made 10,000, they got 3,550 of it. Insane.
Yeah, that's
Insane. The
ridiculous.
only person who would think that is a good idea is someone who is desperate or who doesn't plan to be there very long. And I
Mhm,
told myself, I don't plan to be here very long. And I
mhm,
even got pushback from people that I worked with. You're leaving too quick. I left after a year. Bro, I
mhm,
can do bad all by my motherfucking self. Like,
mhm,
look, and and I was also tied into insurance companies. The company that I worked for, they could change rules on the fly. In fact, they did it to me once. I said I wanted to do teletherapy. I changed my mind, but then they said, well, according to the verbal agreement that you made with the two people in the room, I was like, that's really fucked, especially knowing like racism and you had two white women, but that's cool. That's fine. I just
mhm,
bided my time. And I finally, it was just a leap of faith. I am neurodiverse as hell, and every time I think about this, I think about Into the Spider Verse whenever he jumped off the building and he was just like
mhm,
he was, and that's exactly how my life has been. Like right now, it's just a leap of faith. It's like I believe
mhm,
and trust that the things that I'm saying people want to hear, and that I have stuff that's valuable. And it's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. As a black man, the racism in advertising, people can't find me. And that's why I make so much noise on TikTok. If you search for a black therapist, you find a white therapist who hires black people. Like you don't
mhm,
find us, you know? And so when I try to get myself out there, then people say I'm unprofessional. So it was just a leap of faith. I just said, you know
mhm,
what? If I fail, I fail, but I would rather fail on my own than be, someone else's bitch. And that's really what I
mhm,
mean. No disrespect. I'm sorry. They can get mad at me if they want to. If I know how the pimp game works, and I was
mhm,
being pimped. I mean, at least he gave me a little bit of money, but I was out there doing the work, and they were taking the
mhm.
money. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Plus smiled in
Yeah.
my face. And I mean no disrespect to the people that were nice, but there was some messed up stuff that happens. That's why I'm not saying their name. But
Mhm,
so I just went from one thing to the next until I finally realized if I'm gonna do this, I have to do this. If I'm gonna do this, then I can't half-ass it anymore. I can't pretend to be a therapist, a business owner. If I'm gonna do
mhm,
it, I'm gonna do it. And hopefully I make enough money to where I can hire other people to do this shit for me. But I have to do it a little bit for myself first. Does that make
mhm.
sense?
Yeah.
Let me make it clear. A group practice made up of other therapists? Get it in, y'all. Do y'all's
Okay.
work. Get it in there, right? But a group practice that is branded, let's say it's called
Mhm,
Fruitful Therapy Collective, right? You don't want to work for the Fruitful Therapy Collective, right? It might
mhm,
be Horde, Johnson, and Aaliyah, that group therapy services, kind of like firms
mhm,
do in lawyers and things like that, how lawyers firms do when they work together. So I want to
mhm,
make that clear. And people just have to give me the benefit of the doubt and let me get to this point, because now I understand all the white folks are mad at me. Don't talk about group practices. They're great. They are when they are made up of other therapists. But
okay.
when you have like Fruitful Therapy Collective, like you're the product at that point, right? You
Mhm,
are the product. And
yeah.
I was tired of doing all this work, and then they getting the credit. Fruitful Therapy
Mhm,
Collective has such great therapy. No, I'm the great therapist.
mhm,
Me.
yeah.
So ooh, child. People, that's why people got mad. People got afraid whenever I made that TikTok saying that the
Mhm,
therapists are the police. We absolutely are. And so I had my friend Cody on my morning talk show yesterday. Can I say yesterday? I got to start thinking in terms of time. Doesn't, like, when people watch this, I can't say the word yesterday. But I talked with my friend Cody about this. And so again, you're gonna thinking in systems is very difficult, but I just want you to bear with me as we go through. So I understand. I can hear the troll in the background right now. I understand that without capitalism, I wouldn't have the ability to sit here and talk with you right now. That doesn't mean that capitalism isn't a problem, right? So therapists exist inside of a capitalistic system. right?
Mm,
So our jobs is to make people healthy enough to work within that system, right?
mm.
And
Yeah.
so from that lens, we are agents of social control. And so, let's say, for example, someone in the military or has an aspiration for a military career. You are not going to
Mm,
become high up in the military with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. You're just not. It's not happening. It's not
mm,
happening. The FAA, I don't know the rules offhand, but please go check them. There are
mm,
diagnoses that bar you from being able to fly. And I was talking to I used to work for an advanced practice medical psychologist, which basically means I just went to a class for a weekend and now I can prescribe drugs.
mm,
Basically, essentially, I'm sure he did a lot more work than that. But anyway, we were having a discussion. He was like, "Well, I don't want someone diagnosed with bipolar disorder to fly a plane." But when you look at all the bias, none of these diagnoses have any like there's no explanatory power and like they're
mm,
scientifically meaningless. Like I can get you the studies. Like it's practitioner what is it? Our judgment, racism, bias, prejudice is how we
mm,
make these diagnoses. So knowing and the problem is a diagnosis is just a snapshot of you at a certain point in your life. After my
mm,
divorce, major depressive disorder. Whenever I first realized that I could sustain my practice the way I wanted to, bipolar disorder. I'm manic, happy as hell, right? And
mm,
so when you take a snapshot of someone's life and then give them a label that follows, it's ridiculous.
mm.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. So I may have fit the criteria for bipolar disorder this one instance, but does that
Mm,
mean that I can't be able to get past that and recover? Well, of course you won't recover because again,
mm,
therapy exists within a capitalistic system and recovery does not make you money. Remission
mm,
does, being in
mm,
remission does, but
mm,
recovery, why do I still need the system? So there are absolutely diagnoses that were, and sometimes when I work with people, I tell them, look, I know I'm expensive. I know it.
mm,
If you want to get reimbursed, you can use. I'm not expensive. Let me stop knocking myself. I don't charge enough. I don't. I don't charge enough for that. I should be charging $1,000 an hour. I honestly should. That's how much I believe in the work that I'm doing and the change that I've
mm.
seen in people's lives. That let me stop that narrative. That's a little bit of narrative therapy for you. Let me change that narrative. That's BS. I am worth every bit of them. I'm Netflix need to give me a show. What was I talking about before I went off on that? Do you remember? I'm sorry.